none of these tools are 100% accurate. They are still prone to hallucinations. They might not necessarily give you the most recent information. So you have to have that human touch. You have to ensure that, say, if you're writing collateral, it is in line with your brand, with your messaging, with your positioning. The best way to go forward is maybe having this 80-20 or 70-30 human AI framework where you're letting AI handle, say, the routine tasks, maybe the initial content creation, and then you take it on from there. So that last 20 or 30%, that comes to you, whether you're going to go forward with this. How do you refine it even better? How do you ensure there's this emotional resonance? I think that's where AI and that human touch come hand in hand.
Mike's got the hat, the AI kind. Unlocking power in business you'll find. Cut through the hype, explore the tech. Every week new ideas to check. All 10 leads us on a digital quest. AI secrets he'll always invest. Tune in tight, don't miss a beat. Knowledge groove, keep you on your feet. Listen up to the AI flow. Business growth, here we go. Cutting edge insights, that's the plan. With the AI hat, you'll understand.
Greetings, program. Welcome back to the AI Hat podcast, where I selfishly use this time to pick the brains of experts at keeping up with and integrating or layering artificial intelligence into social media, operations, advertising, search, and other areas of business and marketing. Oh, and you get to learn too. Subscribe to be shown to prepare yourself and your brand for this AI revolution and come out ahead. Now, have you ever wondered what it would be like to have a personal assistant that never sleeps, never takes a coffee break, and is always learning? Now imagine that assistant not only helps you at work, but follows you at home, helping you to become a better version of yourself. Sounds like science fiction, right? Well, for marketers like our guest today, this is becoming a reality, and it's all thanks to artificial intelligence. Because in today's world, that line between our professional and our personal lives is becoming increasingly blurred. For marketers, this blending of worlds presents both challenges and opportunities. How do we stay ahead in our careers while also finding time for personal growth? The answer, it seems, lies in the very technology that's driving our industry forward, AI. But how exactly is AI reshaping our entire day, from the moment we wake up to when we finally put our phones down at night? To answer this question and more, we've got a true AI marketing maven with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm thrilled to introduce Joya Scarlata, a marketing leader, AI strategist, and co-host of the podcast, The Marketer's Guide to the AI Galaxy. Joy isn't just talking about AI, she's living it. As the director of marketing at Intera IT, a B2B IT services firm, she's at the forefront of implementing AI-driven tools to enhance marketing strategies and predict industry trends. Her expertise hasn't gone unnoticed. Joya was recently recognized as one of the 101 women in AI marketing and has shared her insights as a TEDx speaker. Today, she's here to give us an insider's look at how AI is transforming not just our work lives, but our personal lives too. Hey, Joya, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. And whoa, that was quite the intro. Thank you for having me here.
My pleasure. I love, first of all, being very transparent with folks that Claude helps me write the intros and he's my showrunner for these podcasts. But more importantly, you did all the work. You were the one who was doing the things that need to be done to get that kind of recognition. So I'm just sharing your greatness. So if you could start by just walking us through what's a typical day like in your life and highlight some of the ways that AI is touching both your professional and your personal routines.
Great question. I do have to say that when I before I answer the question, rather, when I started this AI journey, I would always say that it's really fascinating to really find out the ways that AI has really integrated in our lives in ways that we don't really notice. So, for example, Amazon or Netflix and things like that. So, an example of an AI enhanced day for me, I would say, is that the moment I wake up, I have a smart home system. So, maybe my light bulbs, my thermostat, it's just at a click of an app that I can say, turn on the lights, change the temperature and whatnot. If I'm reading the news, then I have a AI curated news feed based on my preferences and my reading behavior. And then once I go to work, that's really when the magic starts. I might use ChatGPT and also Claude. I love both of them. And I might look at, for example, past data. If we are looking at a campaign, might use either one of them to analyze the performance data and look at trends. And if I'm writing copy or writing any content that's, say, for the week, then I'll use either of them to help me brainstorm trends or maybe look at competitor analysis. We also look at, say, website data. So we might use, say, Google Analytics, just taking all that data and then again using an AI tool to see what trends and patterns that we have. And then again, when it comes to writing content, I might use, say, Grammarly. Grammarly has a great AI tool to help detect tone, making sure that my voice is consistent. It's consistent with the brand that we're using. And then also, I might use other AI tools like Canva to help create visuals that's relevant for, again, for the brand, for the content. And after work, that's like a very brief example of how I use different AI tools during the day. But then after work, the use of AI tools doesn't stop then. I might use, again, ChatGPT or Claude to help me meal prep. Or if I want an idea for a fitness routine, I might use one of them to just give me examples, give me ideas. And might look at, say, for example, if I'm working out, looking at my Apple Watch to see trends that like my walking trends, my step count, and see how I can optimize it better. So I think there's just different touch points throughout the day that's really interesting for that.
Yeah, that's so true. The way that technology and AI have infiltrated, right? Just every
Yeah,
aspect of our lives, personally and professionally, before, during, after work. So you talked about automations that are occurring. You talked about your use of ChatGPT and Claude, even at a personal level,
right.
happening throughout your daily life. How is that impacting your approach to marketing strategy and decision making?
I feel that my marketing strategy has definitely shifted. I don't want to use the word reactive, but I will. I think it's become a little bit it has shifted from more reactive to proactive. And I think the AI tools that are at my disposal have really allowed me to have access to even more or further deeper insights and allows me to have this flexible or agile decision making that I might have not had um, access to in the past. I think it's great that we've talked about automation. I think that it's great that the AI tools that are available to us have really allowed marketers to automate routine tasks. So whether it's data analysis, looking at different trends that are out there, understanding I'm in a B2B IT industry. So it's really, really important to understand what our competitors are doing, what our prospective clients are thinking about, and then accordingly to that data, segment it. So long story short, I think these AI tools are great to help, again, automate these routine tasks. And then it allows me to spend more time on the more strategic and creative tasks. So I can pair those tasks with the ground level real time data. So that manifests into more personalized and customized messaging according to our target audience, looking at and predicting customer behavior with like even more or greater level of precision. So I think on a daily basis, AI has really allowed my team and I to really experiment on a greater level, and we can also measure outcomes quickly, which is really obviously needed because marketing and technology just moves at such a fast pace. So it's needed.
It is very much needed. In fact, I
Yeah.
have to be honest, I'm a little jealous because in a former life, I was a sales manager for a B2B IT company,
Ah,
back in Ohio, and this was a long time ago. We didn't have any of these kinds of tools
right.
at all. There was no automation, there was no assistance along the lines of what you're talking about, particularly when it comes to analysis. Now, you've already mentioned and hinted at a couple different tools. I'm wondering if you could share some specific examples, or at least one about of an AI tool that you think has significantly impacted or improved your productivity, particularly when it comes to marketing,
Oh man, there's so many.
right?
So many.
Like, you can
I
only pick one.
only I have a soft spot for Claude, actually.
Yeah.
I really do. I sorry, ChatGPT. No, I love ChatGPT, but I think Claude I use a lot, and I view it as like a strategic partner throughout, say, my content writing process or even my strategy process. So I think it's just really helpful to maybe analyze past data, past whether if, for example, if I'm launching a campaign, I use it to analyze past trends, and I might ask Claude again to really look at or even challenge me. I use it as like a brainstorming tool. So maybe it'll ask me or I'll let it ask me questions that I might not have considered before. Maybe looking at highlighting key themes for whatever content or collateral that I'm writing, analyzing the data, whatever data that I'm feeding it for common trends or helping me draft a very compelling narrative. Because again, as you may know, with the IT industry, it's a very, very crowded market. So messaging, obviously, with any company, any industry, whether B2B or B2C, that messaging has to be on point and it has to be very compelling to really, you need to be able to have to cut through that noise. So again, I just view Claude as just a sounding board for me. It may just reveal things that I might have not considered before and just help with that personalization as well.
I love that usage, and I mean, we've talked about a lot of different tools on this show overall, not just this episode. We've talked about incredible tools like Jasper, and you
Yeah.
mentioned Grammarly, and there's so many fantastic AI tools out there, but I love that you're stressing and emphasizing just start with the basic frontier models, these large language models like Claude and ChatGPT and others that can actually do so much. And the more you use them, the more you learn how to use them, I think. The more
Right.
you listen to shows like this and your conversations and talks, you'll get ideas for use cases and ways to use them. But what I'm also hearing is that we're using these tools so much,
Mhm.
right? You're leaning on them as a strategic advisor. You're leaning on them to help us create copy and other kinds of marketing things that at one point in our lives and careers, this was all human activity that we were doing. How do we balance the use of these AI tools with maintaining human creativity and intuition and those kinds of things in your marketing efforts?
I think that's the $1,000,000 question, and I think that is something that we have to, as marketers, always keep in the back of our mind that balance. I think that's so important. I've seen it too. I think there's always this fear. You always hear that question or that point where AI tools and processes, it's just going to replace marketers, and I'm not saying that's a valid concern. I personally, I do view these tools, like I mentioned, Claude, I view it as a complement. It doesn't, it's not a supplement. It doesn't, it's not a substitute rather. I do think that balance is it's really key. And I think that we need to make make a conscious effort not to heavily rely on these tools to I don't know, it's very hard. I think, like I said, I think you just have to be aware. It's so easy to just copy and paste. If I ask ChatGPT or Claude to be like, "Hey, write me a blog post," it is very easy. What's stopping me from just copying, pasting it, and just presenting it? There's nothing wrong with that, but again, you need to have that human touch to anything that you're doing. Again, and I've always said this before, none of these tools are 100% accurate. So you need to a lot of these tools, they are still prone to hallucinations. They might not necessarily give you the most recent information. So you have to have that human touch. You have to ensure that, say, if you're writing collateral, it is in line with your brand, with your messaging, with your positioning. So it's not necessarily just copy and paste and then leaving it right there. I would say that the best way to go forward is maybe having this however the percentage is, like this 80-20 or 70-30 human AI framework where you're letting AI, depending on the task, letting it handle, say, the routine tasks, the automation, maybe the data processing, if you're producing content, maybe the initial content creation, the optimization, and then you take it on from there. So that last 20 and or 30% that comes to you, that boils down to you, that strategic decisions, whether you're going to go forward with this. How do you refine it even better? How do you ensure there's this emotional resonance that, again, brand voice refinement? So, again, I think that's where AI and that human touch come hand in hand. So they are both needed, but yeah, I just don't think that you can just 100% rely on an AI tool and not have any human touch or interference with it. That's just my
No,
opinion.
no, I couldn't agree more. I think you're exactly right. If you are using AI to simply churn out content that you are trying to automate and touch as little as possible, then it's very transactional, and you're
Yes.
essentially a link farm out there where you're just putting out stuff that no one is going to find any value in, and you miss the you being the person who was doing this, not you
Yeah.
personally, they would miss the most crucial aspect, which is the human deciding first whether or not we should do whatever it is the AI is about to do. There's no strategy there. There's no sense of a moral compass or ethics about that. There's no sense of, is this really a good idea for the
Mhm.
business to churn out content that a human being has had no involvement with at all? And I'll caveat that by saying there absolutely is and will be more circumstances where that might be okay, right?
Right.
Chatbots is a mini example
Yeah.
of where that is, right? Where we've got the AI who is, if it's trained properly, is perfectly capable of having a conversation with a prospect or a customer and provide them with content in that small limited scope, right? But yeah, to give them an entire blog post, no. I've done a lot of work with custom GPTs, and I've crafted them so that they know who my audience is, they know what my voice and style is, and it can create really, really great copy, but it's still not capable of deciding on its own
Yeah.
what content I need, where to put it, what to include in it, what points to focus on. I've gotta be heavily involved no matter what. So, I appreciate you bringing that perspective. That's something that some people need to hear for that cautionary tale perspective, but I think it also is reassuring to those of us who, to your earlier point, are maybe concerned for our
Yeah.
roles. They're concerned for the future of marketing. There is some justification for concern there. I've talked about before on this show how I do believe AI will cause some roles and some jobs to just no longer be needed, or we no longer
Right.
need as many. This is an industrial revolution. It's not just a change in marketing,
Mhm.
and if we look at past industrial revolutions, we've seen that, gosh, we no longer have gas lamps along our streets. So we no longer need to pay people to go out at dusk and physically light those lamps. Those jobs are gone. We no
Yeah.
longer have horse stables in our downtown areas, and so we no
Right.
longer have to have the people that maintain those. But the technology necessitated new roles and new jobs, and that's one of the challenges I think today as marketers and frankly everybody in our society. Artificial intelligence is going to create new roles and jobs that we cannot imagine today, but that's just what's going to happen in the future.
I absolutely agree with that. Like you said, I do see some roles that are going to be unfortunately replaced, but I think also the job descriptions, maybe job description of a CMO of the future, it's definitely going to change. I think there's going to be increased more expectation for this AI literacy, I think. And I'm always curious to see the marketers of tomorrow. I think there's going to be that expectation. Maybe what knowledge of prompting, how do you analyze the data that you're getting from an AI tool? So I think, yeah, definitely the roles are shifting. And just to your point with balancing AI and just that human touch, I again, as I mentioned before, I think it's so important to make sure there's that authenticity because I also see on LinkedIn, I'm just I see a lot and it gets
Nope.
irritating too. Where it got to a point like any post that I had, I would see 5 different comments and it was just a variation. It was just the same thing. Different people, they you could tell that they were
Mhm.
feeding in my post and just regurgitating it through ChatGPT, and I'm like, "Guys, have a little authenticity here." It's so
Right?
obvious, but hey, it is
And
what it is.
I don't know why it seems like it's worse on LinkedIn than any
Yes,
other social network. That's a little mind-boggling to me because if you're going to automate and use AI to generate comments, gosh, it sure seems like X or YouTube would be the first place that I would go,
that's
but
true.
not LinkedIn. But and yet to your point, I see the same thing, and I've heard many other people complain about that. It's really, really bad. But I love what you said about talking to the marketers of tomorrow. That's something actually that I do on a regular basis, going to colleges like SIU and
Mhm.
Otterbein and talk to the kids who are in school today trying to
Yeah,
figure out, okay, what is marketing actually going to look like in a couple of years when they graduate? Because it's not like it was a few years ago. It's going to
no.
be different. We all have to grow. And so I'm wondering how, in your experience, what are maybe some of the unexpected ways that AI has contributed to your personal growth outside of work?
Great question. I know this sounds a little bit odd, but I think that prompting or learning how to write an effective prompt, at least for me, has made me become a better written communicator, if that makes sense. That just trying to teach a large language model on this is exactly, hey, this is the context, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Can you help me with X, Y, and Z? It really forces me to just figure out, okay, how to be brief and concise and to the point. And it also, I think, in just doing so, has allowed me to break down more complex problems or more, yeah, complex problem statements into just different parts, even in a non AI context. So I think that has been just an interesting and unexpected way that AI has helped me in my personal growth, becoming a better communicator. And also I think just experimenting too. I think it's just allowed
Oh
me to
yeah.
be a little bit more innovative and things like that. So how about you?
Yeah, it's funny. I was laughing while you're talking about the communication and the prompting and that sort of thing because I've had a very similar experience this year, and it's amusing to myself because not only am I using AI more over the past 6 months, I also brought on a virtual assistant this year, and it's been a very similar experience where I'm having to learn and reteach myself how to give. I don't know if I wouldn't say concise instructions, but clear instructions,
Mhm.
chunked down instructions. Make sure I've got boundaries and guidelines communicated succinctly. Or
Right.
else, if I just let it go, whether it's the VA or the AI, I might not get the results that I was looking for. And I just this afternoon gave my VA a new set of instructions. I'm doing a bunch of customer interviews at Agorapulse, and I wanted his help cleaning up this spreadsheet that I've got built out of all these interviews. And I was able to give him like just 4 sentences in a Slack message. Here's the sheet. Here's what I'm looking for you to do. Some other instructions and guidelines. And he got it. He totally understood it. Whereas, gosh, 6 months ago, I don't think my instructions would have been as not necessarily what are wrong, but I'm sure I would have covered some things that didn't need to be covered, maybe. I would have forgotten some information. I would have neglected to include some guardrails. And I'm seeing that exact same thing in my AI. The instructions I gave ChatGPT a year ago were just absolute garbage compared to the conversations I'm having today with ChatGPT and Claude and other tools.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. You're just able to cut through that fat, just get to the point, and then just communicate to Claude or ChatGPT or what have you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's almost magical then, what happens next. Folks, we're talking with Joya Scarlata about the impact AI is having on her life, both personally and professionally, and can similarly impact yours. And I've got several more questions you aren't going to want to miss. But first, a quick word from our sponsor. This episode of AI for Business Leaders, the AI Hat podcast, is brought to you by Magi. Tired of juggling multiple AI subscriptions and trying to figure out which tool to use and when? Magi simplifies AI for businesses by offering access to all the leading language models and image and video generators for one low price. With Magi, you can create custom instructions to personalize AI for every business need and use them across all LLMs, including ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, and even DeepSeek. No more building custom GPTs or gems that are limited to just one platform. Magi also lets you create customized workspaces for your entire team, giving everyone in your organization access to the same AI assistants and tools and prompts. Ready to streamline your AI workflow and empower your team? Tap the link in the show notes to visit Magi today to learn more. And now, back to the rest of today's episode. So you and I both are using AI like from dawn to dusk. We've got our
Yeah.
routines, we've got our curated feeds, we have the conversations, the strategies that are happening. Are there any potential downsides or challenges that you've encountered just by having AI so deeply integrated into your life?
Another great question. Again, I think the downside is finding that balance. Again, I think there is always that risk of just being heavily reliant on any AI tool or technology. And I think challenges, when it comes to challenges, there needs to be this continued conversation, especially in marketing, of the ethical side of it and using AI responsibly, ensuring you mentioned guardrails, ensuring that there are guardrails. So as like in the B2B world, I guess it applies to again, even the B2C side. Any relationship that you build with your customer, it is so dependent on trust and transparency. So I think that you want to be, or their question comes up like, when is it a good point to be upfront that you are using an AI tool? You have to be upfront on how, say, if you are using customer data, how are you using it? How are you using it responsibly? If you are, say, implementing an AI process, you really have to think it through because if something goes wrong, then who is responsible for that? So I think it's really important for marketers to continue having these type of conversations. It's not just about picking an AI tool, implementing it, and then that's it, or analyzing the data and that's it. You have to consider again the ethical considerations. What are the challenges? How do you responsibly use data? Making sure you probably have a governance policy or it's in line if your company has an AI governance policy, making sure that whatever strategy you implement is in line with the overall policy. So there's a lot of, I think, challenges and considerations that we have to keep in mind with AI.
Those are really, really powerful reminders I think I'm recalling a conversation I had with Mitch Jackson on an earlier episode. He's an attorney specializing in IP and copyright law, and we were specifically talking about the potential impact of agencies using artificial intelligence to create content on behalf of their clients, which is an issue that we've been hitting around, right? Because the more we use AI, the easier it is to create content. And if you've got to churn out a bunch of blog posts for a client, it's really easy to turn to ChatGPT and say, give me a blog post on X, Y, and Z, and it will do that.
Right.
But I think more importantly, to your point, the real issues are when the marketer or the agency would use AI to develop an asset like an ebook and turn that over to the client. Well, what happens if that ebook gets stolen by their competition?
Right.
And the client wants to sue the competition for copyright infringement. They can't because today's laws have no protection on AI generated content. So that's the kind of thing that we absolutely have to be aware of as we use AI more and more. We need to be careful about when and where and how we use it. And still, to your point, have that human involved
Right.
in that decision making process the entire time. Now,
Right.
my next question, I'm laughing at eternally a little bit because, like I said at the outset, Claude helps me with this. And Claude has no perspective about artificial intelligence. Claude has no historical perspective
Mhm.
about how we're in the fourth industrial revolution and how fast things are changing. And so it likes to have me ask you questions like, how do you see AI evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? As though anybody could predict what's going to happen in 5 years. But the joking aside, I'd love to know your insight on where you do see AI going in the short term, particularly when it involves marketers.
In my opinion, I think there's a lot of conversation going around with agentic AI,
Yeah.
AI agents. I see that becoming more, or rather, more and more individuals or marketers will implement or move towards that. And then I think that there is that fear too, as AI agents, maybe they're going to be capable of executing from start to finish a marketing campaign. I think those fears again will crop up of what is the role of a marketer these days. I think the maybe job descriptions or what we're responsible for will continue to evolve. I think also, actually, my co-host and I, we discussed this. I think the nature of search is continuously changing. I think SEO, the way companies or the way we do SEO traditionally has completely evolved. So I think, for example, there's a lot like in terms of how we internalize sentiment. I think there's just a lot of things that we have to consider when it comes to branding. How AI tools are picking up what is being said of your company. I think that's changing. So, yeah, I think search is evolving. I think we'll continue to use more and more, say, voice assistants. AI agents are going to be a big thing. Those are the 2 things I see more and more. I think, and then in general, I think we're gonna see even more personalization, more customization. And I think the question that probably we're all gonna be asking is, when does it stop becoming like a I don't know, like, I think there's just this expectation now for marketers and for others just to use AI. I think that maybe that term that this is AI powered, I think that's gonna be a thing of the past. It's gonna be just an expectation that we use it or something like that. It's just gonna be so integrated and embedded in our processes that maybe that term is just gonna go away. That's just my opinion.
Well, I couldn't agree more. It's not like we still talk about turning on the electric light.
Right,
We
exactly.
turn on the light. We don't
Yeah,
even we just lights. And and to your point, we use automation and we say, Alexa, turn on the lights, and
yeah,
they turn on. And I think you're absolutely right. Artificial intelligence as a label within the next few years, I totally agree. It's gonna start to drop off in usage as it's just going to be now ingrained in everything. It's implied. We don't need to expressly talk about it.
right.
And I personally am not thrilled or impressed yet with Apple Intelligence, but I love the fact that it's happening because it's bringing that mainstream awareness of some aspects of AI. We're recording this in, well, November 1st. So probably by the time this drops, Apple Intelligence will have full OpenAI ChatGPT integration, which means like my parents will start to actually use ChatGPT.
Right.
They don't today. I've been obviously talking about AI for over a year now, and they don't care if they don't listen to my podcast. But people like them are a good microcosm of society. And until people like them are using this kind of technology, it's still going to be in the niches in the specific industries like marketing and healthcare and so on. But for the marketers who are listening, who they're still just getting started in their AI journey and they're trying to figure out what to explore, what advice would you give them on integrating it into their daily lives?
So I think with anything, it's really important to first have a foundation. I know that it can be really, really overwhelming to pick. There's just so many AI tools out there. So it is very overwhelming to pick what's the right one for you. So I would just say start small. Just pick one, pick two, figure out like if you're just trying to learn it, just pick one, like say Claude, really, really learn the ins and outs of it, learn maybe the basics of prompt engineering and see how it can solve a particular problem that you might have. So, from a marketer standpoint, maybe you're looking at content optimization. So, just really focus on one and then scale up. And then you can maybe inch more AI tools into your tech stack. Start then experimenting, maybe look at different tools, one or two other tools, experiment. You can start using AI then for research and analysis or trend analysis. And then you can, once you get a good grasp of that, then I think that's when you can start looking at automation, looking at workflows that where you're combining multiple AI tools. So long story short, you want to start small. You want to understand the particular problem that you're trying to solve. Which tool is the best one to solve it? And then you can start integrating different tools. And then that's when the magic really happens, I think, with that.
Yeah, yeah, I absolutely agree. So to just tie everything in a bow, we've been talking about all the different ways that AI can help us personally and professionally. You've given some fantastic examples for marketers of ways they can use it and where they can get started. We've talked about keeping that humanity
Mhm.
involved throughout the entire process. How do you see work-life balance evolving in this AI-driven world, particularly for marketers?
Oh gosh. I think it's in anything AI or not, it's probably stating the obvious, it's really important to have that work-life balance. I do think that using AI tools, it could probably help create what I like to call intelligent boundaries. So as you continue to integrate AI in your work and also your personal life, you can allow it again to handle the routine tasks that probably 6 months to a year ago, you might have been the one responsible for it. So, allowing an AI to do that, it helps you free your time up to do other things. So, and I think in that way, it does help if you're using it right, creating that workflow to help create that balance. Again, nothing is perfect. You might have to experiment a little bit. It's a iterative process, but I think that's how I would see it. Just let AI do the heavy lifting with the routine, the mundane, and then freeing time for you to do other stuff, the creative stuff, the fun stuff.
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, I reminded folks go back and listen to our previous episode with Natalie Lambert because that was all about having a mindset where we are training and reminding ourselves to try using AI more instead of continuing to go back to the way that we used to do things, the manual ways that we used to do things. I had given this example. If I had a bunch of data and I knew if I dumped it into a spreadsheet, I could manipulate the data and get some answers. And I was like halfway through that very manual, time-consuming process. When it finally dawned on me, I can just drop that spreadsheet into ChatGPT and
Yeah.
ask it the questions that I want answered, and within seconds, it answered it for me. And that's true, but the irony in this conversation is that if we're struggling with things like work-life balance, if we're struggling with how can we better incorporate AI, or how can we make sure that we're keeping our humanity into all these processes, the irony is that, well, we could actually ask AI in
Right.
those
Right.
situations. You can go and you can have that conversation with Claude or ChatGPT or even Pi if you guys have used Pi. It's one of my
Yeah.
favorite apps. I've hooked my kids up with Pi. They have these amazing conversations with Pi. And you can say, "Hey, this is what I'm struggling with. I'm struggling with work-life balance. I'm struggling with how to wrap my head around how to do this project at work, or what to cook with
Yeah.
whatever's in my
Yeah.
pantry or kitchen, or what cocktail to make with my alcohol that I have," which is the example I gave last time. So, yeah, it's ironic, I think, that when we're having a conversation about how to keep that balance with AI, I'm saying turn to AI, and yet it's such a powerful resource even in those kinds of situations, I think.
Right. And I don't know how to say it. I think whether it's irony or not, I think I feel that there's still maybe some guilt for people. I think they feel like it's almost like I'm using, say, ChatGPT to help me write content, that there's this sense of they're cheating or they're
Yeah.
guilty and things like that. So I don't know. I think the fact of the matter is we are using these tools increasingly. Again, it's just that matter of how do we just still bring in our emotional values or that tone and stuff like that. But I don't necessarily, I guess it's one thing how you're using the data, but I don't see it necessarily as a bad thing or you should be guilty of it. I don't know. It's touchy. It's a tricky thing.
It's sad, but it's true, and it's very predominantly a gender issue.
Mm,
Women in particular feel like if they're using a tool like AI to be more productive, to be more efficient, it's cheating. And they're afraid that they're going to be viewed as less than because they're using a tool.
right.
And that's one of the reasons why I've had you and so many other women, incredible women from that list of 101 women leaders in tech and AI, because I hope that by simply showcasing how well women like you are using AI and how successful and powerful you guys are, that the women who are listening to us right now feel like, "Oh, okay, it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah.
I can use AI. I can use a tool. I can bring a scientific calculator to school." If we throw back to just a couple decades
Yeah.
ago,
The
when that was a
TI.
problem,
Yeah.
right? You had to sneak them in for a while, then finally those kinds of rules and regulations got released.
Right.
It's the same thing today. Just in general, the overall view of using AI, it's not cheating. Now, that's not to say you can't cheat with AI.
No,
It's a
that's
technology and a tool like everything else. You
yeah.
can, and we're not gonna talk about that. But simply using AI, no, it's not cheating. So I appreciate you bringing that
Yeah.
perspective up because it's really important.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Cool.
Oh,
Well, Joya, I want to thank you because this has been such an enlightening conversation. I know folks have gotten a ton out of it. And if they want to learn more from you, they want to reach out and they connect and want to connect with you, where can they go?
I think the best way is to connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search Joya Scarlata. I also have a personal website, joyascarlata.com. And as I always encourage people just to reach out, I love to just keep the conversation going. So happy to connect.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Joya. We will have all of her links in the show notes below. So don't worry about that. But that is all the time we've got for today, friends. Now, remember, if this is your first foray into the world of AI marketing, I do got that perfect resource for you in the show notes below, that AI marketing primer. It's designed to quickly get you up to speed on the terms, the tactics, and the underlying technology that's powering this AI revolution. Check it out, and I'll see you in our next episode. That's a wrap on another episode of the AI Hat Podcast. I hope you gained some valuable insights and actionable strategies to boost your business with AI. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your network. And don't forget to visit theaihat.com for more resources and to connect with me. Until next time, keep innovating, and remember, the future of business is human and it's powered by AI.